Zay Flowers set to return to Boston College, and Pitt has a new quarterback. Find out who and just what the rescheduling policy for ACC basketball might look like as we're gearing up for what should be a wild COVID winter.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC at Locked On ACC on Twitter. You can also subscribe on YouTube. AJ Black from Locked On Boston College is in the building to get us kicked off for what should be some really important ACC football and basketball news. Now, today's episode is brought to you by NetSuite. NetSuite is a #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. Head to netsuite.com/lockedonncaa for special end-of-year financing on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. AJ, I hope you've had a great start to your week, friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy around here with all the breakthrough cases and everything. It feels like 2020 all over again with what's going on in sports and what's going on in the world. But I'm safe and at home, so that's all I can say for that right now,
Yeah, 100%. I, seeing the news about the cases on the cruise, and I was like, oh, this really is like 2019 where we're just starting over December 2019 and everything. At least we know now what to expect, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, at least you hope that, there's good chunks. Like, I live in Massachusetts, and the vaccination rate's really good up here. So, the hospitalizations and pieces like that have gone down dramatically since what we had in 2020. But
yeah,
it's still crazy, even with all that.
Yeah, for sure. It's wild and it's madness. And of course, there are so many moving parts as we'll talk about ACC basketball and the rescheduling policy, what that currently looks like and what it could look like in the coming days, weeks, what have you. Commissioner Phillips certainly will have a lot on his hands, but there is plenty of breaking news in the ACC football world. Let's start with the fact that Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College, has decided to return, and he will be with his old-time friend, Phil Jurkovec. The Eagles are looking pretty good as they look to try and make a fight in that Atlantic Division. How are you feeling, AJ, about this return from Zay?
Oh, I'm getting the wiggles in the toes. This is getting me excited. The two big questions for Boston College football this offseason was going to be, will Phil Jurkovec return and will Zay Flowers return? Now, Phil, I always thought he was going to come back. He just did not have a good end of his year. That injury pretty much messed up any chance that he was going to have to get drafted anywhere respectable in the NFL draft. However, Zay, I felt like he had enough game film to get some respect. Like, he's a guy that you'd have enough game film to be like, hey, this is what he can do. Also, he'd probably kill it during his tryouts. He'd probably burn it on the 40 and do some really big things. So I feel like he could have done well, and it could have gone either way. A connection I had said to a friend of mine who covers Notre Dame, who knows the Jurkovec situation and was one that kind of clued me in when he was going to commit to BC. I said, there must have been, Phil must have known that Zay was going to come back in order for him to make that decision. I just felt like that would be a big thing for him to know that, because he didn't know that. So it was a surprise even for the quarterback that Zay was going to do that. Now, having Zay back for Boston College, if you've watched any of BC, he's something Boston College has never had before. He's an electric wide receiver, and with Jurkovec to get him the ball, which they didn't have this year, Dennis Corcel couldn't get it to him. Phil Jurkovec can. He can throw it to him 40 yards down the field and let Zay straight out to catch it. So, the big question is, can the two of them stay healthy? Zay's done a good job at that. Phil struggled with it, but if they can, look out for Boston College and the Atlantic in 2022.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's the biggest, piece of all of this is having this 1-2 tandem. And I know a lot of looks were talked about in terms of Boston College's defense, but they held their own, it seemed, during the season. Now, Boston College is going to be in the mix with the Clemsons, the NC States, and the Wake Forests of the world. Do you feel like it's going to be a top-heavy division, and more so of our argument of why we probably shouldn't have divisions in our conference, because it feels as if it's Atlantic and everybody else, especially on that side of the coastal, which we'll talk about here in just a second.
Yeah, totally. I've been on the get rid of the divisions. I love 2020, and I wished they took that system back, not just because of the unfairness, because for a while I was just watching Clemson win over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But I like to see the different schedules. I liked playing a season with playing UNC, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Duke. That was fun. It was different. You didn't get that often for a Boston College person. So I just like it more because it mixes up the schedule a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's not like every single season you're like, okay, we're playing Clemson at home. We played them next year away. It just gets kind of repetitive, and it keeps it kind of nice and fresh. But look at the quarterbacks in the ACC Atlantic next year. You got Devin Leary, DJ. You have Malik Cunningham. You have Phil Jurkovec and Jordan Travis, and then you have Syracuse. And so you have a very, very strong Atlantic division. That's going to be a lot of big battles. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add Sam Hartman from Wake Forest, who made the decision to return, of course, he doesn't want to have his career end the way it did, in Charlotte, of course. So yeah, 100% heavy over there. And then on the side of the Coastal, things are actually going to get a little more interesting as Kedon Slovis. He is the USC Southern California transfer who has decided to commit to Pittsburgh, and everyone's like, okay, Kenny Pickett is gone. It's not going to be the same team. But here we have Izzy there it is, Abanaconda. Okay, I had to get my names all good. Rodney Hammond, Jordan Addison, Jared Wayne, and Gavin Bartholomew. A pretty loaded Pitt Panthers team, which of course you talk about Carolina and all their 4 to 5 star recruits. You talk about Virginia and Brendan Armstrong possibly returning, and Tony Elliott and what that could be. But it's going to be interesting with also having Tyler Van Dyke in Miami. What can he do with Mario Cristobal, who's supposed to be this quarterback whisperer? Things are getting interesting for the offense on the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Let me tell you, so far there's been a ton of quarterback movement this offseason.
Yeah.
Kedon Slovis to Pitt has to be near the top. I'd put that above Spencer Radler. Some of these other moves. I thought last year when he played for USC, he was good, and he was good this year too. He completed almost 70% of his passes, and you get that in Pitt's offense when you have Jordan Addison against some weaker ACC teams. He is going to shred some of those defenses that he plays against. He's just a good, solid quarterback that's going to be put in a position with some weapons that are going to work for him. I love this move for Pitt. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I couldn't believe that that Kedon Slovis was going to transfer in the first place. I had him on my short list for the Heisman last year. And then to see him, get kind of pushed out, it's just the way, it's that weirdness of college football right now. But Pitt's going to gain from it. And I think it's starting something special with the Panthers. And I doubted them to start the year, and I am off the doubting. I'm off doubting Narduzzi from now on. I'm buying in on him.
That's fair. And I'm sure we'll have to listen to Nick Faribault, Locked on Pitt. If you want to hear more exclusive information, there's also a Locked on Now if you want to get some inside tips to that. But I'm always interested to see, Lincoln Riley making that decision to not really keep, Slovis around. Quarterback at the helm. Is it because it's not your guy? What is it that makes people, not want to hold on to talent that they clearly see on the field?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's because Riley likes to do that kind of, I don't want to call it air raid, but like very open offense of just chucking it down the field. Slovis is much more finesse, I would say. Like he's a precision passer. Like get that. I don't think of him as like rushing to the line like Lincoln Riley will do with his quarterbacks. He's not really all that mobile. But so it may be just it's a system fit. Like he's just not the right system. But I always say to that, like, that's on the coaching staff. If you have a guy like Slovis, a guy that is that talented, you fix your offense to fit it for him because you want, you shouldn't just exile him and go, yeah, screw that. I'm going to go get somebody else. That doesn't make any sense. Like, just tweak it just a little bit and you can make it work. Good coaches can do that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think it's going to be a long day for Lincoln Riley. Now, we've all been talking about, and you've listened here first, AJ Black and I have gone over some bowl games as we're preparing for Boston College to play East Carolina, the first ACC bowl game to kick off bowl season for ACC football. Now, if you have not yet, I've been telling you about PrizePicks. And if you still haven't signed up, what are you waiting for? PrizePicks not only offers the football action that you can get in during this bowl season, college football playoffs at that, but you can also get in on on college basketball as AJ and I prepare to talk about the ACC gearing up for what they'll do about their COVID-19 policies. PrizePicks is a leader in college sports daily fantasy. It offers more college football and basketball props than anyone in the world. All of your users that deposit and use promo code LOCKED on LOCKEDON will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play that you are able to download quick and easy in under 60 seconds or less. It's safe and offers fast withdrawals, so don't hesitate. Go to prizepicks.com, use Locked On, or go to your App Store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Now, once you are set in that regard, make sure that you hit up the number one cloud financial system to power your growth. As we mentioned, today's episode is brought to you by NetSuite. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR planning, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked, LOCKED. Again, go to netsuite.com/locked for this special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the number one financial system for growing businesses. AJ Black, Locked on Boston College, joining the show as we're talking about Zay Flowers returning to Boston College. He'll play for the Eagles this fall yet again in a very good, always humorous Instagram post where the long post, you write 3 paragraphs only to tell people either you're declaring for the draft, you're transferring, or you're decided to return. You got unfinished business, right? You also have Slovis, who is going to Pitt after a trip to Southern California. Now he's taking his talents way cold over there in Heinz Field. It's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts to that. But more importantly, we have to pivot because there's a lot of breaking news happening for ACC basketball, specifically on the men's side. We've seen already for women, as I talked about on yesterday's show, some forfeits going on between Miami, having Duke not being able to compete against them. But now you see it for Boston College, Wake Forest game being declared a forfeit. Wake Forest already getting a 2-0 start into their conference play, looking for 3-0 if Louisville decides to play them on December 29th, but that remains to be seen because Louisville is experiencing COVID stuff. So now we're sitting here with a Boston College team that's fully vaccinated, has some COVID issues going on, but with the policies currently in place, because you have issues, you have to forfeit a game. They don't even try and reschedule. I know for AJ, you have so much to talk, so I'm giving you all the floor to let me know just how frustrating this is for the Eagles program and really ACC basketball as a whole.
Okay, so I'm putting all politics aside on this. I'm not getting into any political discussion about this.
Sure.
I'm going to give you the facts. The facts, as you just said, Candace, is Boston College is 100% vaccinated.
Right.
To be on campus, you have to be vaccinated. And so that means that for athletes, for the team, for the staff, they all have to be vaccinated, right?
Sure.
So this rule, the ACC, it's an ACC policy, is that if there is a COVID outbreak on your roster, you have to forfeit. And the reason they created this was sort of as a punishment on teams that had guys that were not vaccinated.
Yes.
Because back before Delta, before Omicron, it was just thought that, if you got vaccinated, you were good.
Yeah.
Now we're learning with this new strand, this new variant, that doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
You could still, and it's not you're getting as sick as you used to get, because if you're vaccinated, you're going to, it does fight that off. But all these guys that got vaccinated, you're starting to get hit with it. So now we get this archaic ACC rule punishing Boston College, one of the few programs that has 100% vaccination rate, for reasons I don't understand. I don't understand why BC has to forfeit this game. They didn't do anything wrong. They had everyone vaccinated. They did what the conference wanted them to do, but they still got a loss. It makes no sense to me at all. And the ACC and I know there's other teams that have different things, but BC has been put up as the gold standard for this whole situation for a year now. And I know they've had issues, but this, now that they have that policy, this new rule needs to update. It needs to change because it doesn't accurately reflect the current state of the pandemic.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And listen, I'm all for postponements. I'm all for,
Yep.
possibility of trying to reschedule, which they tried to do when all of this first started, right? They were trying to figure out ways to make it up. And I get it. Like we are trying to make up games, as we saw Duke have to do twice. All people have popped with COVID positive cases. Now, my first, couple questions here. If this was a Duke situation, if this was a Carolina, even if this was, let's say, a Wake Forest or a Syracuse, would we be having the same conversation in terms of forfeit, or do you think it's a Boston College issue where like, okay, we're gonna make an example out of you, but it wouldn't happen necessarily for some, let's say, blue bloods in our conference?
I don't know if it's a make a point out of you. I think it's more that they don't care enough about
Yeah.
BC. Like
Hmm.
if Mike Krzyzewski was out there, Coach K was out there reaming up and down the ace, Jim Phillips for this law, this
Sure.
rule, and Jim Boeheim was out there doing it. Believe me, this rule would change very quickly. But
Hmm.
Earl Grant's a quiet guy. BC's near the bottom of the pack, and they don't get that respect. And so
Hmm.
because of that, they're not going to get the change, and it's gonna take a big battle between Duke and UNC, and then all of a sudden they get all the ESPN ads, and boom, COVID shut
Yeah.
down, and then you get Coach K crying on or getting angry and snarling about it during a press conference, and then all of a sudden Jim Phillips listens again. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and Coach K has already mentioned that they're not doing enough in terms of testing, and that we're putting ourselves in a position to be, kind of behind the mark when it comes to COVID. And I agree. I
Yep.
think you need to just get it all out in the open. But I also think it's time to have, like, well, I don't know, a COVID committee, protocol committee. Let's reconvene and see that this is a real time. We've already been updating. They need to take a page out of the NFL and NBA's book. While it worked in the sense of trying to pressure people or encourage people to get vaccinated, it no longer is an issue because people are vaccinated and still getting it. Do we have to list the entire Greek alphabet before we understand how many variants are coming into play, and then how many forfeitures before you have nobody in the race for the top of the ACC? How do you make it, to where your title is legitimate because of all the people who didn't have an opportunity to play necessarily, or whatever, what have you? So I think that's when you start getting into trouble, especially as you mentioned, when you have those TV deals going on and who's playing on ESPN versus ESPN2 versus ACC Network Plus. That's when we're starting to say, okay, maybe we're going to have to figure things out.
I think the next step that's going to come up, and the thing that could push them to do it, is this is the I believe this rule is for all sports. So I think if this was to hit a bowl game and
Mm,
they lose all the revenue for a bowl game, that also will push Jim Phil's button, because those bowl games, the TV rights and the deals that they get for the conference are huge.
yeah.
So if I'm saying it's probably going to be coming, so just wait. I don't know what team it's going to hit, but just the way everything is going in the world right now, something's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. We have
And
about 9 ACC teams playing in the bowl. I'm pretty sure there's going to be issues with one of them.
they're probably going to end up going to the NFL route, which I mean, I guess is fine, but it's unless you have symptoms, we're not going to test you, which is just basically saying we're not doing anything. So because the players aren't going to say anything,
Yeah.
and the coaches aren't going to say anything, they're just going to throw them out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that pop up soon too.
Yeah, I want to ask you, if you were Commissioner Phillips, what would you do here in a second? I want to know what your thoughts are and what do you think would best be to proceed and move forward? After I remind our fans here that BetOnline has you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the College Bowl season and the pro football playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all sports action. Head to the website or use your mobile device today to sign up and receive 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit just by using promo code Locked On LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, so don't wait and take advantage. BetOnline is where the game starts. Now, listen, if you love a good, delicious treat, you will get the best of both worlds between a delicious and healthy bar like Built Bar. So many flavors: chocolate, double chocolate, cookies and cream, peanut butter, brownie, mint brownie, cherry, and more. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel you need to bust down those small doors as we're getting that last minute shopping in, right? Because the season of peace and love, don't let Built Bar get away from you. People are so passionate about their favorite flavor. If you want to have a little holiday conversation, bring up what Built Bar treat they love the best. Maybe it's Built Bar Puffs, the marshmallowy treats that are essential for this holiday season. Even tell Santa or whoever you just choose to write to during the North Pole to put some of those Built Bars in your stocking. Listen, built.com is where you should head right now. Use promo code LOCKED15. That's locked15, and you get 15% off your order. Again, built.com, locked15 promo code for 15% off your next order. So we're wrapping up the day's show here with AJ Black. And of course, if he was Commissioner Phillips for the day and he had to make some rescheduling policies, how would you go about just making sure the Ducks get in a row for the rest of basketball season and what probably may be, the start of a football year this fall if we don't get things together?
So I have a multi-point plan here, Candace.
Okay.
I have an idea, and it's based off of some things that happened last year. So it's like learning from the past to build on the future.
There we go.
So what I would do, and I think most leagues should probably do this at this point, is shut down all sports for like the next 2 weeks. Just hit the hard reset on this, because right now it's a cluster bleep. And erase, as I said before, erase all the forfeits for any team that has it. Just get rid of it. Okay. Yeah. And what you're going to do is add a month onto the end of the schedule and move March Madness, move it to May, because as we saw last year during the COVID stuff, around March, it kind of cleared up. And so you could get some games in March. You could do the conference tournaments in April, and then you could do May Madness. And
there we go.
I know a lot of people out there are hell bent on tradition and you have to do it in a certain time. Who cares? This is not a typical time. Let's just get it in. Let's get the guys healthy. Let's get the women healthy, and do it when we can do it safely, which will probably be in May. So take some time off. Put those games that we miss at the end of the season, move the conference championship back a little bit, and move the national championship back a little bit more. It'll all work out.
I don't disagree at all. I think we are not operating as we understand that we are in a different space. And I completely agree with you there. It's not normal. We are not ever probably going to get back to complete whatever we saw of normalcy before 2020. And that's fine. But I think we also have to take a moment to recognize that while we're in the thick of it, maybe we should reconsider how we're moving. And I think the way we're trying to act as if nothing is happening is the biggest issue, because you see guys who are vaccinated pop up in the COVID protocols. You see guys who are unvaccinated, and it really doesn't matter either way it goes. It's the fact that they're unavailable, period. And so I think that's the biggest issue of unavailability is going to cheapen the product, which is what everyone does not want to see. You do not want to watch a G League, a managers who are now starters for your favorite team playing because that's who's available, right? I don't think you need to see walk-ons having to lead the squad because of not being able to reschedule or change your policies to be most effective. So why not just take a break? May Madness sounds great to me. I just think it's just silly to me to try and pretend as if none of this is real. Sometimes I feel like we're just operating as none of this is really happening.
Right. And to take the flip side of the Boston College thing, right? So Boston College goes in now say they play Florida State, and Florida State has to forfeit. Now BC gets a win there against a team they probably never had a chance to beat. Yeah. And you're going to get a bunch of this, and maybe BC goes 8-4 in the ACC because they're just winning forfeit games over and over again. How is that fair? How is that basketball? It's or athletics. It's nonsense. So what Jim Phillips needs, and the NCAA in general, and I know they move at the pace of a glacier, needs to think of different ways of approaching this. And I don't have any faith that they'll do it. Yeah. But you can do this and keep the athletes safe. And for those that are saying, oh, but they're 20 and they're not going to get hurt, look at the bench. There's assistant coaches that are 60 on that. And we got to take care of everybody out there. It's not just about the player, the guy. It's the support staff. It's the guys, the trainers, all the other guys that are helping out. And so, it's about. I feel I'm getting myself all worked up here.
Good.
It's all about thinking outside the box, making it work, because you can make it work. We've shown we can do that, but as you just said, Candace, just doing it as is just, it's not cutting it.
Yeah, it's extremely lazy. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Everyone on that court is not of the, tip-top shape health where they can just let things rock. We're all not operating where we can run 7 miles on a basketball court per game. We're just fine. We can't just function. So that's the biggest.
Bob Huggins on West Virginia. He looks like he's sweating from walking one end to the other. I don't want him getting COVID.
No, because you get up out the paint. Like, I think that's the biggest issue. Like, we don't, because we have not seen any major tragedies, in regards to COVID, especially with athletes. I think that's another reason why it has not yet been a sense of urgency to really make some things shake. And of course, they get mild symptoms, they get no symptoms at all. We don't care about testing anymore. But again, as you mentioned, it's not just them out there on the field. It's not just them, hugging and dapping each other up. It's especially with a disease that you just don't even know where it's coming from. It's so critical to understand the ramifications of what we're kind of putting a lot of people through, because games run not just by the players performing. It's a whole function, it's a whole system. So being more cognizant of that is essential for us to really get things rolling. But we're not on a soapbox. At the end of the day, we can preach all we want to. They're going to do what they're going to do. I just think, like you said, we could be watching a Boston College Syracuse ACC championship game the way things are rolling. We could watch Wake Forest and Duke. Who knows the way the forfeits may go? But hopefully, if we have guys like Coach Boeheim and Coach K, we even have on the women's side Coach Banghart from Carolina, even have the Louisville coach kind of step up, maybe we'll see things ultimately change west more from NC State. I think it's going to take the bigger wig coaches really advocating for some sense of not even normalcy, not the word, but some sense of intelligence, really, to try and make sure that we put player safety above and beyond the first forefront of being, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm on a spiral, but just trying to make sure that everyone's doing the right thing.
Right. And that's also on the media too, you asked, if you lay that up to Coach K, he'll hit that one out the park.
Sure.
But if you just go with how was practice today, how are they, he's just going to skip about it. But if you get him going, that gets you that clip that goes viral on the internet, that gets everywhere and then forces the hand of the ACC. So the media has a piece of this too, that like, if they feel strongly too, because, I was there. I was in the press box for 3 or 4 games for football this year.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go now. That. And I'm vaccinated, but it's on us to also to question, to hear their thoughts, to hear what the coaches actually think, and to ask them.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, if you are listening to us, you already know we're here advocating for coaches to speak up more. We'll make sure we'll do that when we get an opportunity. And as well as our media friends who are watching us, we'll make sure they know that it's time to put everyone on blast and make sure everyone's soapbox is right and clear. AJ, we know people can find you not just here, but other places. Can you remind them of where they can find you and follow your work?
Absolutely. I'm the host of Locked On Boston College. I promise you I don't talk about the COVID stuff all the time. I've been talking about football and Christmas. I had my top 3 Christmas songs let off, and my number 1 was Mariah Carey.
Ooh, there it is. There it is. I love me some Mariah.
So I'll give you my top 3. So I did my top 3 Christmas songs. My third one was, and I'm totally blanking on it. My number 2 was Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC.
Ooh,
and my number 1 is Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You, which I think a lot of my fans really hated me for putting that, but I can't get that song out of my head. So, but I talked a lot about that kind of silly stuff because there's no basketball right now. So I'm going to talk about whatever I can.
There you go.
You can check it out on Locked On Boston College. I'm also the editor and publisher of Sports Illustrated's BC Bulletin. I cover everything BC, whether it's football, basketball, recruiting, everything in between. Check me out, and you can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC.
No doubt. Candace Cooper, AJ Black. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you hit us up on YouTube and at Twitter at Locked On ACC. If you want to talk to us more there, you can follow us in our personal handles below. We will talk tomorrow more basketball news as we try and figure all of these things out, and then we'll get you right for the weekend, all the betting action. Make sure you guys are locked and loaded there. Until next time.